What's going on, creators? I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about facing fears when it comes to weird things going on with your body, pain, weird illness, weird disease, all these types of things we can start to face in the here and now, in the present moment. And as we do that, we can start to change states from unconsciously manifesting these types of pains, these kinds of fears, these kinds of dangers, all of these types of things. You can look at it metaphysically at our body as being a reflection of our unconscious beliefs and assumptions being externalized into form. And when it comes to stewarding, especially, it's about looking at what has manifested, and at that point evolving into more and more desirable states. And so part of conscious living is consciously growing, consciously evolving, consciously growing your body, for example, into a representation of the child of God that you are, the temple of God, as the Bible would describe. And gardening is a very good example of that, where it's like weeds and actual good fruit is in the same ground. And it's not until you see how it manifests do you distinguish the two. And so when it comes to like weeds, thoughts of weeds and stuff, those can present in your body as like illness, as symptoms, as pain especially. But it can also manifest as far as like an identity thing. If someone calls you like a cripple, for example, or like some derogatory name, or you're just some sickly person, or whatever, you call you like make fun of your weight, something where you're getting made fun of and you feel like it's an attack on you as a person. Well, that's a big red flag that you have made the symptom, the disease, the undesirable characteristic part of your identity. And in truth, that's not who you are in Christ. Because how you're supposed to start to evolve your identity on some level is being one with your creator, and the things that are true of like Jesus, for example, are also true of you. And so when it comes to like anything manifesting in your body that you're judging as being imperfect, as being part of like something that goes against the promises of God, for example, when God says that pain, sickness, death, all that kind of stuff is going to be abolished in heaven. Well, part of living in the end, in the law of assumption, is embodying the state of being blessed right here, right now. So looking at your body as being flawed, as being diseased, as being crippled, as being all of these types of things, being painful, all those types of things are beliefs, assumptions that need to be brought to awareness and then either let go of or evolved. And so as somebody who's like dealt with a chronic hip issue for like 20 something years, I just got my hip replaced like 2 months ago. For those people that are new to the channel, been actively doing a lot of physical therapy, a lot of stretching, a lot of cardiovascular thing. I've been swimming a lot. It's like the past couple days really been going aggressively in the pool to really get the heart rate up, breathing up, just very fucking intense. But at the same time, feeling so energized after doing that. It's incredible, and wanting to share that with other people that can maybe get stuck unconsciously in like an identity that is like, oh, well, I'm just a sickly person, and that's who I am. A big part of metaphysics and just spirituality in general is realizing the importance of I am, and recognizing that relationship between you and your creator. Because according to Jesus, our creator is within us. And the more that you're practicing, some of the things that were laid out biblically to do, but, also in, current reality in the here and now, you have people that are demonstrating these different examples of being mindful, demonstrating the fruits of the spirit, which is love, joy, peace, all these kinds of attributes, oneness, connectivity. And once you really start seeking the kingdom as Jesus suggested to do, you start to realize that you are not these thoughts. You can observe the thoughts. You're in alignment with the observer when you're conscious, being able to watch the thoughts, watch the beliefs, feel the energy of the emotions as they trigger a response within you. But the more that you practice being mindful and present, and realizing it's only ever now, you start to become more and more conscious of what you're thinking. And so many times when it comes to our body, we're letting our mind run wild with unconscious beliefs of our, this, this programmed into us from when we were a child, or, why are we believing the things we're believing? Like, look at the COVID shit, for example. So many people fell victim, I guess, to like a belief that we don't have like a natural immune system, for one. I thought personally that was very common knowledge, that was just like elementary school education, like, oh, you have an immune system that fights these different things, or, you have the ability to heal yourself. And biblically, it's God within us that heals us, and so the more that you recognize what is already inherently there, the more that you can just start to trust and have faith in the ability of your body already. Without our Creator, our heart wouldn't be beating. Our heart, our lungs wouldn't be just breathing. There's already a natural intelligence that's observable that you can start to connect with. You can get a scratch on your finger, and without you having to fuck with it, it just naturally heals on its own. And I've kind of figured, just through my own life, that the more that you pick at these fucking things, the more that you prevent your own healing. And that has to do too with so many things where you're putting your attention on fear and worst case scenarios, danger, trying to keep yourself safe from danger. All of these kinds of things can actually almost be counterproductive, because it doubles you down into a state of undesirable, of being sick, having pain. And the more that you focus on it with your attention and your energy, it almost like reinforces it. It's like you're picking like a wound and not letting it heal by continuously fucking with it. It's like, oh, checking on the pain. Is it still there? Oh, it wasn't when I was like, being present and still and had my attention on other things. But as soon as I took the bait and checked on it, oh, that's still there. It's almost like looking at, like a wound on your hand, going, oh, is it still there? Let's scratch. Well, it's bleeding again, so I'm still not healed. It's when we stop interfering with the natural order of things, the natural flow, and we do that through, for one, consciousness, but also in taking new action. Because like a big part of like the old identity is constantly manifesting the undesirable unintentionally, not realizing that that's what we're doing, but by existing in states of fear and worst case scenarios, that's what we're impressing our subconscious mind with. And our subconscious mind is non-selective in the fact that it doesn't care whether you impress it with curses or blessings. Whatever one you believe to be real and a real thing, to either expect fear or to expect love, it doesn't matter. You'll be rewarded with either. And so knowing that, then it's like, okay, well, if I'm unconsciously doing this, meaning I don't realize I'm doing it, when is the choice then to start thinking something new? Well, luckily for us, it's always in the present moment. So it's like you don't have to go far to start to make the change, because it's really, what are you thinking about right now? Oh, I'm decaying. Oh, I'm getting worse and worse. It's never going to heal. Oh, this is just my lot in life. I always just got to deal with this pain. Always got to deal with this. Always got to deal with that. And you're fixating and focusing your attention on the undesirable and growing it unintentionally. It's almost like you're planting dandelions in your garden. Every time that you're focusing on the undesirable, and then when they start to manifest in the tomorrows, and it's like, oh, I just can't ever have any good fruit. Oh, and then you start having woe is me and complaining and thinking that it's always going to be like this, instead of proactively doing something to improve the situation. You're unconsciously making it worse. So it's like you're always kind of doing it. And so taking big responsibility and big ownership over it is important, but realizing that God is the giver. is very important too, because when you start to connect with that I am presence, that oneness, that connectivity, which you can start to feel more and more so inside of you, hopefully in the here and now, you start to feel that energy start to kind of bubble to the surface of your awareness. Well, then you can start to impress more and more desirable things and align yourself with what God said is the reality anyway, and start planting those seeds of faith, because there's really only two ways to master the future. And that's to master the present moment and what you're planting in the here and now, because the future is in God's hands. You can't, it's unknowable what the future is unless you're actively in the present moment planting those seeds, expecting more and more heaven to unfold in your day, more and more desirable situations, and then you're not confronted with a lot of the fears of loss then too that can start to happen. Maybe you start going down a different path, and I've experienced this too, where it's just like starting through my healing journey, I guess, it's like when I first got out of like the hip surgery, getting my hip replaced, I could barely even walk with a walker, I could barely move my legs. Now, every day seeing the improvements, having some setbacks, having some whatever, overdoing it, then it's a process. And so, but with that process, moving from like being in, I'm going to say, I'm in a disabled state to now I'm like able. It's more about making those moves where you're seeing the gains. What can you do to solve the situation? Anything? More than likely, there's something that you can cooperatively do, because God likes to work through us. So the idea of magical thinking, where it's just like, poof, you're healed. Not to say that doesn't happen, because all things are possible for our Creator to do. But, looking at just my life experience, for example, there's been a process of creation, a process of moving from state to state. And it's through just trusting that God's orchestrating those perfect events, perfectly orchestrating the day, gets you out of this wishing things were different and rejecting the present moment. Not saying you have to agree with it. If you're, like I was, when I first come out of surgery, basically I went from being able to work and do these things to now my present moment was like, well, I'm fucked right now. I can't really do shit. Not to say I'm going to sit here and agree with that. That's like, this is what my life is going to be. It's just like, I'm just going to be confined to a walker, being barely able to put on pants. It's like you don't have to agree with it, or you have to kind of accept it's like this is kind of physically where I'm at the moment, but that's not where I'm going to be. And the only way that you can really handle the present moment with that as the situation is through faith. Because if you don't have faith like God's going to help you, then you're going to spend the present moment in fear and hysteria. You see that going on in the world all the time, is these people constantly just hysterical about one thing after the next because they have zero faith. So it's like, the climate, we're going to doom and gloom, we're all going to die, blah, 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 we're so afraid. The COVID shit. We were so hysterical about something with such a high survival rate anyway, that we're going to inject ourselves with some unknown substance. That to me is more that sounds fucking more of a danger than anything. I was like, I don't know what this shit is, but it's like I don't normally get sick ever anyway. My immune system, and it's like, well, Mike, you're not a doctor, and it's like, well, let's start focusing on the mindsets of people that are demonstrating things. And if you're demonstrating a strong immune system, what about you makes you have a strong immune system? I believe it's just your faith in the fact that you just trust that your body can handle it. For one, that you strengthen it, through your lifestyle choices, but then also you push it, you test it, you like take it to the fear barrier. You face the fear. And that's why I feel like physical therapy is important in, for one, catching positive gains, positive momentum, putting your attention on that versus the decline, the fucking decay. So it's like, for me, whatever, it's like stretching has been kind of brought to my awareness is like, you need to do this in order to because the thing with pain in general, I've just experience or whatever is it feels like a very tight resistance. It feels like a clenching, a holding on to, which is like you can feel that with fear. It feels constricting. It feels like it's pressing and like, and you can feel how that affects your chest and it affects your whole kind of, you just feel like you're just tight. But, you know, I feel like your body is, again, a reflection of your subconscious beliefs and assumptions about your own body, which you think it is. You know, if you think it's a mortal flesh suit, you know, that's what it is to you. But if you, you know, believe that your body, that who you are, your identity is consciousness, that you're one in consciousness with the I am, and your body reflects that, well, that's a different belief, you know, and you will demonstrate that to others regardless. We're always demonstrating regardless. You're either demonstrating being cursed or demonstrating being blessed. Both are a choice. Being cursed is just unconscious. That's what we start off in. You can choose to be conscious and start to take control of your thinking, your mindset, your beliefs, letting go of the thoughts that no longer serve you, that no longer resonate with who you are in Christ, you know, because who you are in Christ is being able to do all things. All things are possible for you to do. You just only have to believe that. The only reason that doesn't, you know, manifest for you is because you push it away. You go, no fucking way, Mike. Your body, blah blah. This is incurable. This is not blah blah. There's no way you can recover from this. This is permanent and blah, blah. Those are all beliefs and assumptions. The shit they told me was permanent 20 years ago, now they say is like, oh, there's treatment for it. It's like, don't buy into these thoughts of limitations, these thoughts of fear and hopeless attitudes. You know, if there's one person that can demonstrate it, you know, maybe that's you. You'll be the one. You'll be the first one. You know, and so having that kind of a mentality that I'm going to be the first one that recovers from that, even if there's no evidence of it, fuck it, I'll be the first one then. That's a much better attitude than, well, you know, I'm just going to sit here and die. I'm just going to sit here and decay. I'm just going to sit here and just accept that that things are fucking against what God said is true. You know, those are I feel like unserving beliefs, unserving assumptions. When you can be, do, and have anything according to Jesus, either that's a true statement or that's a lie. And so the only way you'll ever know that is to put it to the test. And so when it comes to any of these types of things, it's important to find that fear area and then get to it and then kind of push over it. You know, because as you face the fear, you're going to replace the fear with faith. You know, and as your faith grows, your body's going to demonstrate that belief. And there's a time that I've experienced where it's like you start to feel the change, and then there might be a thought of like loss, of like, oh, this is too good to be true, and then you slide back into the old state. Or, you know, it's like you start to see some positive momentum, and then it scares you because you are starting to make the change, and it's like almost feels like a death as you change states from like being cursed to blessed, as being like you're something fucked up with your body to you being healed. You know, there's almost a fear of death that starts to happen. You got to push through even that, and realize that the fear of loss is the same metaphysical law playing out always. It's in consciousness first. And so when you start to make these positive changes, and then you start to see the momentum as this delayed mirror starts to reflect the change that you're making in the present moment, you know, in your tomorrows, you're always experiencing this unfoldment of your past coming back to the present. It's cyclical. You know, it's not linear. That, you know, linear thought is part of the cursed mindset of thinking, oh, there's 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And that's what always makes me laugh about, you know, some of these hysterical people when it comes to the climate, even with the COVID shit. It's like, well, our 10-year projections shows just, look how fucking chaotic and disturbing this trend is. And it's like, we extrapolate this for the next 50 years. I mean, the seas are going to be boiling, Mike. It's this disaster. It's doomsday. It's Armageddon. It's like you can't master the future until you master the present. You can't fix the problem that the consciousness that created the problem has manifested. You have to elevate your consciousness, and then it will automatically start to be mirrored in in creation. It's just how it is. And until you start to really put it to the test, you could start having doubt about that. But as you believe more and more so that for one, the connection you have to your creators within you, that what you're speaking to your creator in consciousness is always getting externalized like a big mirror, so that you can see who you are in the bigger self being reflected back to you. Well, then it's like, oh, well, if I'm going to take radical responsibility for everything, including my body, well, then I'm going to look at my body as being a reflection of my past beliefs and assumptions, and that might be like out of control. I mean, if you were living unconsciously, it's like your body could totally be a distortion of what you believe yourself to be. And I've experienced that, where it's like I get a picture taken of myself and it's like, ooh, I gained a whole bunch of weight and I don't like that. That person I'm seeing in the picture is not reflective of who I believe myself to be. I need to make a change, and then start making those changes, and realize that just becoming conscious of it in the here and now is the change. So it's like you don't have to go very far. It's like whatever's bothering you in the present moment, that's the shit to evolve, and to either continue to let that belief just run in the background of your consciousness, or go, oh, well, that's a very limiting belief, that I'm never going to heal, I'm never going to get better. Oh, well, that's a bullshit belief. Why in the face of like maybe a symptom, I'm believing that? I could be choosing to believe like, oh, this is part of my healing process. I'm going to heal. I'm going to get better. This is temporary. This too shall pass. And as a result, my body will be strengthened. I'll be stronger as a result of going through this. And it's okay. Everything's unfolding perfectly because God's in control. The future is perfectly unfolding, and everything is awakening a more and more recognition of the I am that I am presence and importance in our life. And the more that you like move your attention to that, the faster and faster these things start to change, that you see the change. But then also you start focusing more on the positive momentum. You stop getting in these fears of loss, because you realize that it happened in consciousness first, and consciousness can't be taken away. It's like, it's part of like your inheritance. It's like it's been given to you already. It's about claiming it here and now. And in that, realizing that you are already perfect, you're already healed, you're already these things. That's the trick. It's like if you keep putting it in this future, I will be healed in a week from now, I will be healed in a month from now. It's always in the future, so you're always spending the present moment in illness and fucking suffering and whatever. But if you start making the present moment where you're challenging those danger fears, just by, oh, I am safe right now. There's no reason I need to be having this inflamed pain reaction. It's like if you look at pain and start to revise it as like, oh, it's just alerting me to my conscious mind needs to address what's going on. It's like if you put your finger on a hot stove, your conscious mind goes, no, I don't need to do that. I need to address something in the here and now, in the present moment. Same thing with like a weird sensation in your body. It's like if you just start to settle yourself, be still, and in that stillness, just reinforcing your mind, I'm safe. There's not something to worry about. Everything is, my heart's beating. If God wanted me dead right now, my heart would just stop. So if my heart beating is a demonstration in the present moment that the healing process is naturally happening. I'm involved in it. It's happening right here, right now. That I'm going to not pick at the scab. I'm going to remove my attention from it. I'm going to thank God that God's in control of how my body's manifesting, and that that is perfectly manifesting based on like my perfect assumption that God is perfect, and God only creates perfect things. And when you start realizing the oneness and the connectivity, you start to then expect more and more harmony to start to happen. And in that then too is like a part of like challenging those fears by facing them. I found this through stretching and to be helpful, because for one, when it comes to like pain, it feels like it's very tight. Like it's like your body's just clamping down on it. I felt that, at least with my hip issues, is it feels like what happens is like it's like a slow constriction, which then starts throwing other things out of harmony, where it's just like it starts on one side, then it affects, like, then your other side starts to find balance and overcompensates, and then next thing you know, then your back is then starting to compensate for your other thing being too whatever. But when you look at what's in your control to do, what's not in your control to do, if you can take your legs and just move them like that, I mean, if you can start stretching now 10 seconds where it's like you feel it getting tight, you might start getting some danger in your mind of like, this is not safe, this feels scary, this feels fear, big red flag. Fear is always a big red flag because that's not who you are at all, but it's reminiscent of the cursed mindset. And so whenever you're feeling that, it's important to start to look at that as an opportunity to grow some faith. And so you take it to just right at that barrier, right where it starts to feel uncomfortable. Hold it for 10 seconds and then do 5 seconds where you push just beyond where you feel comfortable, and just for 5 seconds. And then you start to repeat that over and over again. Then the following day, it's only ever now when this happens, but when you start realizing that everything is like a delayed mirror, that the things that you're planting in the present moment now come back to meet you in the present, and how important the sleep cycle is in the whole fucking scheme of things, when you realize that that's when everything kind of resets. Well, then the following day, when you start going through the things, you don't want to keep picking at the scab, but you want to then, when you stretch the following day, be mindful, even if there isn't immediate progress, know in the back of your mind that this will always lead to a result. This will always have an improvement aspect to it. I'm doing something I know personally to be a benefit. And when your will is in alignment with healing, God's will is always healing. So it's like, and the thing with that is, it's like when you make your will and God's will one, it's a done deal. It's like there's no resistance. You know that this is going to work. It's like as no resistance as getting in your vehicle, and I was like, I know I'm going to get from point A to the grocery store, point B. It's going to be there when I head there. It's like it's a knowingness. And that's where the old mindset was never able to know things. It's like moving into the new creation that you are, it's all about not fixing the old, but recognizing that the new is perfect. Well, Mike, I can only move my legs this far. And it's like, well, that's where you're at today. That's where you accept where you're at. You don't have to agree with it, because we're going to start building on that. And so you face the fear in your body, move it just a hair, again, then get even more, and then the following day, do it again. Is there improvement? Even a subtle improvement is enough to start to be like, start shifting that momentum. It's enough to start shifting you out of that old state of decay. And it's, because the thing of it is, if you're not growing it, you're actively shrinking it. So it's like, if you aren't working on your mobility getting more, it's just getting worse. It's just getting more and more constricted, and you're losing your muscles are starting to atrophy. You're starting to decay. You're starting to get weaker and weaker and weaker. Unconsciously. I mean, that's what happens when you're not doing it consciously, and you're just sitting there in your mind in fear and danger and everything else. And so pushing it, facing it, and then seeing the gains as you make that part of your process, your healing process, then it's like it starts giving you more hope, because it's like, holy shit, I can touch my ankles today, I can do this today, I can do 5 more reps today. You start seeing yourself strengthening, you start feeling that energy level rise, and you start building positive momentum. And then you stop getting in fear of loss, of like, oh, what if I hurt myself? What if I overdo it? What if? Well, those what ifs are a big red flag again of fear. You start pushing that envelope more and more, so your fear becomes replaced with faith. It's like, oh, I can do this. I'm not afraid that I can move my leg that much. I'm not afraid anymore. Then you move it that much, and then you can just evolve that to whatever level, you want to evolve it to, until all of a sudden there's no longer a hang up about it, probably, until you're not consciously aware of it being a quote unquote problem. All that kind of stuff is important for health, recovery, and realizing that so much of your health is not just in one area. That's something I had to come to grips with, and that was like the big start of my decline, actually, was I had a mindset that my grandma actually implanted in me, which was very serving for a while until it no longer was. But it was like, she told me when I was young enough that I just like hung on every single word. It was like, everybody has one health thing that's like their mountaintop, and it's like that's your struggle, that's your thing. Some people have, fill in the blank. It's like everybody's got one thing with your body that's just fucked up, or whatever that they got, that's their mountaintop. And I just believed that, and it's like, okay. And once I really believed that, I didn't have any other issues. And I always like, considered, I was like, oh, I have really good health. It's like I have really strong immune system. I don't get sick. I don't fucking take flu shots. I don't take pills. It's like I don't go to the doctor. It's just like I'm just naturally just fine. And like even if I have like sniffles and shit, it's like I don't start running to, whatever. It's just part of my shit. It's just like part of me or whatever. But like it was like when I realized that like the hip issue was tied into my overall health, that all of a sudden it's like, well, it put a big fucking doubt or whatever into, well, if I'm not healing in that area, why? It all just started to cascade, and then it just started all just turning to shit, and then it started getting worse and worse. And so it's like I could see how like the mind was affecting things, but it was still uncertain, but going through this whole bridge of incidents when it comes to healing or whatever, I start to see now more and more so how it's like, oh, how my beliefs, how my thoughts of danger, thoughts of fear, babying it, I'm just gonna rest and because I don't want to overdo it and then be more and more pain. Well, focusing that much attention is really growing the problem, where it's like what you battle and resist persists. And so it's like you got to remove your attention from it. And the biggest part of like the law of assumption, and is even just biblical understanding, is just like you are blessed right now, you are healed right now, you are already these things. That is already how reality is. Your failure to believe it is what pushes it away, because it's our faith that really plays a big role in the manifestation process. It's like you don't get things added to your perception until your intellectual mind can fucking handle it, process it, digest it, believe it. And once you your intellectual mind can believe that, well, then it just passes to the subconscious. It's like your intellect is the guardian. It's what kind of puts the resistance up, because the subconscious is so non-selective. So it's like it all works in tandem. But it's like the more that you face the fear, face the challenge, and grow it in a positive direction, the more you see those results. And as you start to see the results, the more you stop worrying about fears of loss, because it's like it's not in the physical doing, it's in the consciousness doing first that is the real power and the real fucking thing to develop. And so just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention. Hopefully that helps strengthen you. Hopefully that helps give you some positive momentum for the day, something to start to actively put into practice, so that you can experience higher and higher levels of your body functioning correctly. It's like feeling strong, feeling like full of life, feeling full of energy. And probably the best way I've ever like to really feel that is to really work your heart out and fucking exercise aerobically. It just really energizes you in a positive direction. And so there might be a reasoning why the old cursed mind really is resistant to that. But again, even with that, it kind of feels like you're doing something wrong, because it's just, you almost feel like you're like having a heart attack, or it's like, oh my God. When I was in the pool yesterday, it's like I was just going so hard the whole time, just because I could, and it's like I just was so tired of like having this like it's like the recovery kind of like state, or like, oh, am I getting better? Am I getting? It's like, I'm fucking done with this. It's like, and that's a really important thing too. Is like that I am finished with this. This is done. Thank you, God, that this is over. Really letting the old state go, because you can't be drifting back and forth into curse to bless, curse to bless. It's counterproductive. That's picking the scab. It's like you really have to commit that I am healed. This is how it is. It's like my body might even be having symptoms today, but tomorrow it's not going to be. I don't care what's going on today. I don't accept it, or I accept it, but I don't agree with it. And if there's something I can do about it, I'm going to start to move in that direction. And so with that being said, hopefully that's helpful. I'm starting to ramble at this point. And so, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Thank you for that. Support link in the description. I think that's going to be it. So till the next now, thanks for your attention, and God bless.